Hello there, I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, it is unapologetically pumpkin spice time. 1 week until Halloween. This is Our Vancouver. They look scary, but it's the smell that'll get you. And even evergreens can lose their brightness with extreme drought. But first, feeling lost? Take your soul to a Halloween parade. Now, who says Halloween is just for kids? Not our Vancouver, that's for sure. The city loves the celebration, especially the Parade of Lost Souls. And Kat Singledane is co-founder and artistic director of the Dusty Flower Pot Cabaret Society. Kat, hello there. Welcome in person this year. Great to have you here.
Hello, Gloria.
How heavy is that disco ball? What a great costume.
It's actually not heavy.
No?
It's great. I could wear it all night.
Really? That is something you could wear all night. And it turns all the time. It's just on a little bit of a battery. And you've got underneath there a little bit of a helmet to sort of keep it.
That's right. Keeps it tight.
Fantastic. You look.
Yeah, how does it look now?
No, this is it's a Okay, tell us a little bit about what you're most excited about this year.
Parade of Lost Souls. This year, I'm most excited about the theme, the intergalactic disco theme. I've just been really into disco. We're writing a disco musical, interactive disco musical as well at the same time.
Right.
And an intergalactic was just bringing in space and science fiction and our imaginations and everything we can bring into that. So I'm excited about the new choreography that we have for that and the new workshops that we're leading.
I want to get a little bit into the spirit as well. So is this going to help me out with
Yeah,
this?
oh, that
Good
looks
one?
great.
Good one. I like it. A bit of that.
Oh.
Got it going on.
It's a great color on you.
How did you come up with that theme?
Just from putting together two of my favorite things. I basically thought, what are two things that are maybe disparate and could go together? And I thought space. I've always been into astronomy for some reason.
Yes.
And disco. Stick them together.
Stick them together.
Space disco.
And just how excited are you about just bringing it on full on again this year after a couple of years of quiet COVID lockdowns, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and last year was full on as well. And it was, some people said the best parade we've ever had last year as well. So we've been back. We're feeling good about being back.
Okay, but it's like anything goes. You don't have to necessarily be in the theme. You can come as you are.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit distracting. I'm just trying to stay on track with our conversation because you brought in some friends with you. Tell me a little bit about this.
People looking at us. Yes, these are the new eyeballs that we have. As they kind of come everywhere we go now, and they're just watching.
Let's take a closer look. The eyeballs come wherever you are. So this is actually where these guys can actually see eye to eye.
They do.
This is literally seeing eye to eye.
Yep.
Maybe in this time of discord, it kind of can bring us together a little bit.
I agree.
A little bit spacey. Do they do a little dance too?
They depend. Yeah, sure.
Sure.
We're always ready for dance.
Okay, but you actually have workshops that lead up to the big event.
There's
some
workshops.
dancing. So tell us more about that.
Oh my goodness, we have disco dance workshops that actually move with the parade, so they're meant to go in a sequence that actually moves down the street. We have a witches dance workshop, witches brew. We have costume making. We have the thriller dance backed by popular demand. I tried to take it away one year and it just didn't fly. People kept asking about it, so we have, 50 zombies that are going to be there.
Yep.
And time warp.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Come on, what's Halloween without time warp?
Yeah, we do a mashup.
So why is it so important for you to bring the community together like this? So, it's Halloween. It's been a tough time.
Yeah. Well, it's actually always been a priority for me. And I think because when I moved to Vancouver, I fell upon Parade of Lost Souls as a spectator, and it was being produced by Public Dreams at that time. And it made me feel like I belonged here and that I could have a good time as an adult during Halloween, because it was always my favorite time of the year that I could dress up. And when you have an artistic flair, or just when you are a creative person, you know, I think you get drawn to wanting to dress up in various costumes, and so I want to keep it alive, basically.
Yeah, well, not only keep it alive, but it keeps growing.
Yes, it does.
I mean, how would you compare the Parade of Lost Souls now to when this all first started?
When it first started, it was a few families, basically, and they wanted to create an event during Halloween that didn't revolve around candy and that was more inclusive of all the ages, too. And so I think what I try to do, though, even though it does grow in numbers, is keep that initial seed of inspiration and not change that. And so that's why we do it in the same East Vancouver neighborhood. And we also keep it as a community-led, really, community-involved parade where you are the parade is what we say.
Right. So that's so take us through the whole list of what's available, the parade, the food trucks. What's the whole experience involved?
Well, you could choose if you want to join a parade, which happens on the hour. So that's 7, 8, and 9, and 7 is our parade of little souls. So it's our family friendly. Oh. Yeah, totally. And so you could actually follow a parade if you choose, if you arrive at those times, or you could also just follow the parade route and go ahead, and there's artists all along the way, so you might end up in one area for a long time and then move on. It's a very choose your own adventure type of feel, but there's a lot happening all over the Britannia property.
I hope you have an amazing time. And thank you for bringing so much energy and creativity into our studio. And thanks for lending me the hat, too.
Anytime.
Happy
we have
Halloween.
A whole costume department, whatever you need.
Over to the eyes, guys.
Yeah.
Hi, we are Frank and Jacinta from the Netherlands.
We're biking from Vancouver to Patagonia, and this is our Vancouver.
I love this part of the program. This is where we get to showcase a number of the photographs that you send in, so thank you. We'll start with this one, sunsets with some added colors because of the haze in the air from the wildfire smoke. Mark Suano took this one of Vancouver's skyline last week. Mark, thank you very much. And Minta Chen has been taking advantage of the warmer weather. This is a late afternoon paddle in Boundary Bay, just gorgeous. Look at that reflection. And finally, Bikram Rijal takes us to the Lady Pumpkin Patch for the beautiful view of pumpkins, small and large and very, very large. So much fun. Bikram, thank you so much. And do send us more. It's easy. Just identify your favorite shots and email them to us. It's bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos@cbc.ca. And speaking of pumpkins, they're incredibly photogenic. They also get very, very large. And Joel Ballard was at the Langley Pumpkin Competition recently, where everyone who goes is a winner.
At this farm, an intense competition is underway.
Official weight, 1411!
The annual Pumpkin Weigh-Off. Among the competitors, first-time contestants, the Dosset family.
In July, it was gaining like 26, 30 pounds a day. So you can like really see the change from day to day to day.
By his side, son Ryan.
I really enjoyed hosting us here.
Watching all the people come by and look at
Make sure you visit.
This behemoth wasn't grown on a farm, but a small patch of land next to the Dosset's driveway. The family set up a booth to guess the pumpkin's weight, the whole neighborhood joining in on the fun.
Even like our garbage collector yesterday stopped to put guesses in the box.
And what do you think the prize is going to be?
I have no idea. Some pumpkin pie or something like that.
But getting the pumpkin to the weigh-in was no easy feat. Luckily, they had the help of some neighbors.
It was kind of scary not knowing if it was going to fall off or not.
Back at the contest, 13 contestants showed off their gigantic and somewhat misshapen gourds.
And I'll be over the moon if it's 1,000 pounds.
The total weight? 1,276.
I just couldn't believe it. My jaw dropped.
400 pounds shy of this year's winner, who topped the podium for the second consecutive year, weighing in at 1,676 pounds.
It's a good, healthy outdoor activity. I guess I've got a bit of gardening in my blood, and Yeah, a little competition doesn't hurt.
The competition's been running for more than 20 years, and the organizers say, just like the pumpkins, it's been growing in popularity.
You can't walk by a giant pumpkin without smiling. And I think that's part of the allure to it, to try and grow something.
While they didn't claim the top spot,
in fourth place at 1276, we have Michael Dossett.
the Dossets still left this year's event feeling like winners.
Not bad for a first try.
You know what they say, go big or go at home. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Langley.
Joel, thank you so much for that fun story. Hey, do you post your Wordle score? That game is the latest craze in word fun. Crosswords, by contrast, they've been around since the 19th century. But the modern puzzles are much different today, and part of that is making them more representative. A new documentary all about inclusive crosswords is going to air on CBC's Passionate Eye, October 28th. It's called Across and Down. Just watch.
Oh, I've got a really good one. Mother-in-law. Why not take a woman who's in law, a lawyer? Yes. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we'd have to use last names because Ruth Bader Ginsburg is too long for 50.
Crosswords, on the one hand, sure, who cares? It's just a game, whatever.
You can't worry about your problems if you're solving a crossword puzzle.
It's crosswords.
Have the ceiling on the top and have a woman who's broken the glass ceiling. What woman? I wonder, like... Oprah.
Legendary New York City punk rock club, CBGB?
Oh, yeah.
When you fill in the last square, it gives you a feeling of elation. You put the world in order, and then of course you immediately want to do another puzzle.
Which is so cool.
You get it.
The first time I solved one without having to flip to the back of the book, it was like, oh, I just ran a marathon and, baked a cake all in the same moment. It was great,
My only foray into online dating, a lot of people were saying they solved crossword puzzles. The New York Times crossword puzzle was in their bio, like, don't worry, I'm also quite smart.
This is something that has the eyeballs of millions and millions of people every single day.
The root of the problem was that crossword constructing was kind of stuck, and the world is moving a lot faster than it.
Crossword puzzles have to change.
All cultures should be represented.
We need more people of color. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 Black constructors who regularly contribute, which is crazy.
I think that the crossword puzzle has an obligation.
So like the clue is husband, spouse. Oh, you mean wife, because you assume that I'm straight. It doesn't have to be that way.
This is a grid built of language. It's going to be political. It's just time to change the narrative. That's what I'm going to do.
Coming up, planning for disaster. BC municipalities team up to troubleshoot climate change. Johanna Wagstaffe will join us right after the break.
Rugged mountains and miles of coastline. The same processes that make BC so beautiful are what lends itself to the hazards: wildfires, earthquakes, floods, landslides, avalanches, droughts, extreme weather, even volcanoes. And with climate change amplifying the chances of many of these hazards happening, we have a lot of risk to manage. And there are many individuals and institutions doing just that. But for the first time, a new report led by Natural Resources Canada is taking a comprehensive look at all the unique risks that BC faces. This first edition of the Resilience Pathways report connected more than 70 experts, media included, from a wide range of institutions and disciplines across BC, to better understand the disaster and climate risk interactions with socioeconomic development in this province, and to identify the gaps and challenges and offer recommendations for a path forward. Sahar Safai from Sage on Earth was a consultant on this ongoing report.
People have with many different backgrounds come in and have to play a role in disaster risk management. So people with policy background have a hard time understanding the science side. People with science background have a hard time understanding the policy and governance aspect. So we wanted to bring the two together. We wanted to provide the information in a format that is accessible for both sides.
And as the province works to modernize its Emergency Program Act that will follow the Sendai framework, this report offers recommendations that have the potential to influence these policies and programs in the near future. For me, who is often working in this world of disaster forecasting, it is exciting to see collaboration across so many disciplines and fields. As Sahar says, we share a lot of common ground.
It came out from many of the authors for many of the fields was the need for having more clarity on roles and responsibilities and the direction that we are going. And also who does what, like which entity is responsible for the science part of it, for the modeling part of it, which entity is responsible for the financing, for the methodology, for risk management, who is responsible for coordinating all of these efforts.
She also says that we need to shift from reactive to proactive financing, and we need to concentrate on early warning systems for all of these hazards. The hope is that other provinces can use this report as a guide to create their own down the road. You can read the full report online and stay tuned for updates. And now, you're Science Smart. If you have a question on your mind, send me an email and I'll try and get it answered.
Johanna, thank you. You're watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Our evergreens are in trouble. Yeah, this dry, warm weather, it's taken away some of the bright color from our beloved plants. So, how do we know if they are truly dying or if they're just in need of some help? Dan Sharp, he's an arborist and the manager of the Davy Tree Expert Company, and he's here to help us. Dan's in Victoria today. Dan, hi there.
Hi.
So exactly where are you in the Victoria area?
I'm here at Gorge Park in Saanich, so just across the bridge from Esquimalt. I'm out here in a fairly young forest, but a pretty good example of the type of drought stress that we're seeing.
Okay, so as an arborist then, what have you been seeing during this drought?
So one of the biggest things that we've been seeing are impacts, and one of the most obvious things that we've been seeing are impacts on our hardwood trees, our deciduous trees, but the evergreens can start to experience a lot of drought stress as well.
In what way?
What we see first is that the foliage won't be quite as green and as lush as it usually looks. And then if the drought persists and the tree isn't able to get the moisture that it needs, you'll start to see branches dying more often from the top of the tree. And then eventually you can start to see more other impacts like pathogens and insects moving in to attack the trees that are stressed.
Okay, so what kinds of calls do you get then from people who are worried?
Well, first thing, the most concerning calls are people who have dead trees that they've just noticed, or trees that have no foliage, no leaves left on them anymore. Those tend to be the most dangerous trees, but we also get calls about trees that are just not looking as good as they used to be, and people who are concerned, and they want to make sure that their landscape stays healthy.
I see. When you say those could be the most dangerous trees, in danger of dying or in danger of falling down, what kind of danger?
Well, once a tree's dead, it's considered dangerous because you can't at that point trust that it will stay standing. Some species of trees will stay standing dead for years and years. Western red cedar is a good example of that. But other trees will fall over very shortly after they're fully dead.
I see. So what can we do? What kinds of things do we look for so we can determine whether they can be saved?
So what you want to look for is you want to see if there are any needles dying on the branches. Now, evergreens are a special case because you have to look on the inside of the branches as well as the ends. Normal fall needle drop will occur on the inside of the branches, so further towards the trunk. If you find dead needles in there, that's not necessarily cause for alarm. But if you find that the needles or the leaves on the tree are dying at the ends of the branches and the twigs, then that's something to be concerned about.
Okay, so then what would be your next step?
So your next step, once you've identified if a tree is stressed, is supplemental moisture, especially in the city and in people's residential properties. We recommend watering trees. We recommend watering once in 2 weeks if there hasn't been any rain, and that's several months now that we haven't had any substantial rainfall. We also recommend mulching around the trees. So if you imagine out in the forest, the trees have all kinds of dead leaves and twigs and pine cones and all sorts of things on the ground, and that helps to to be a sponge for moisture. It also helps to shade the soil so that the sunlight that is getting down into the soil isn't evaporating all that moisture away.
Okay, so it seems as if we are having a turn in the weather, and perhaps Mother Nature can help us with that watering. But what if you're at a point where you're pretty convinced that that tree is dead? What do you do?
Well, the best thing to do is to call a reputable tree service. Most reputable tree services will come out and provide free quotes and free assessments on trees and give advice to homeowners. And based on the individual circumstances of your tree, those arborists will be able to make a recommendation and see what it is that is your tree needs.
Okay, and when you see that this is becoming more of a pattern, drier, longer periods of dryness and no rain, what should we be thinking about planting?
So when it comes to planting, we unfortunately may have to start planting trees that are from different areas rather than our native species. Western red cedar is a great example of a tree that thrives here on the coast, or has thrived here on the coast in the past, but is really suffering because of the prolonged and repeated droughts that we're getting year after year. So looking for trees from more mountainous areas, or for other areas that have a more arid climate. We look at trees from Washington and Oregon all the way down to California, or even into the interior, into the East Coast. Some folks as well will search the world for trees that are growing in areas where the climate is becoming more similar to, and planting those trees. It's all fairly experimental, but unfortunately the moral of the story is you want to look at trees that are not from around here.
I see. What species come to mind, just top of mind? I don't expect you to take us through a whole list, but if not Western red cedar, then what?
Instead of a Western red cedar, you might try a sequoia, something from the giant sequoia from the high Sierra Nevadas in California. They do experience similar long periods of drought, and they're somewhat more drought tolerant. Or Douglas fir is actually considered to be a drought tolerant species, even though the Douglas firs that we have growing here on the coast are suffering from the drought. That's because they grew in a time when there was more moisture. But Douglas firs grow all the way through the interior and onto the far side of the Rockies. So it's not unreasonable for them to experience these longer periods of drought. As long as they experience that as they're getting established, then they'll be able to weather those droughts as they come along.
That is great advice, Dan. Thank you so much. And how reassuring is it to see rain in the forecast finally? Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you very much. Take care.
This is our Vancouver!
Now it's the trap in the bucket for you, because knock,
If you'd like to get out and see some live music, Hamilton rock and rollers, the Arkells, they're here at Rogers Arena, October 25th. And Carly Rae Jepsen has a new set of pop tunes. She's at UBC's Thunderbird Sports Centre, October 29th.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music, here to share with you some new and really incredible music from the North. Iqaluit, to be precise. I'm talking about a long-running band called The Trade-Offs. They call their sound Arctic Soul. From their upcoming new album, Let Go, Give In, Fall Down, that is The Trade-Offs from Iqaluit with their great new song, Crowberry Hill. The Trade-Offs formed back in 2012 in Iqaluit, part of an ice flow of young artists from the North who sing songs of reality, self-determination, and modern takes on Inuit life. I remember when I first heard the Trade-Offs, it was when they did very well in our annual Searchlight competition for Canada's Best Undiscovered Musical Talent. And I was immediately struck by the power of lead singer Josh Kumbarayak's voice, also known as Josh Q, and I've been following this band ever since. One of the great things about the Trade-Offs is that they invite us into the reality of hard northern living through their music. Going back to the beginnings of this great Nunavut band, that was the Trade-Offs, having fun in the studio back in 2013. Since then, the band has toured the South. They've performed on Q and on the Juno Awards telecast, and they have even been written up in National Geographic magazine, who said that the Trade-Offs belt out the blues like they're from Mississippi, but are singing of hardships specific to Nunavut. Here's the Trade-Offs with their brand new video for Put 'Em Down. What did I tell you? Glimpsing a Canadian lifestyle that few get to experience. That's the Trade-Offs with their new single, Put 'Em Down. That song features the sled dog team of fellow Nunavut musician Terry Uyaruk. And if you're wondering, that's walrus meat that's being fed to the dogs. Now, according to the Trade-Offs, Put 'Em Down is a song of remembrance. During the 20th century, the RCMP would shoot sled dogs in an effort to immobilize the Inuit and force them to live in government-run settlements. But this video is, of course, a message of hope as well. The dog sleds are still running in the north. Put 'Em Down by the Trade-Offs from Iqaluit Nunavut is a song that you need to add to your playlist for this week, and be sure to check out the Trade-Offs' new album in November. I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music. I'll check in with you again soon.
Coming up, life lessons from a music teacher in Burnaby. Hello again. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. An Indian classical musician is making his mark in BC. At a recent performance in Burnaby, his students joined him on stage. Now, for this musician, it's not just about music. It's about much more. Here's his story.
My full name is Sharanjit Singh Mand. We have some wonderful artists performing here. Of course, my guru, Pandit Harvinder Sharma, he has come all the way from India to grace this city with his beautiful, inspirational music. And I will be joining him on the stage. So it's a sitar duet. He will be playing sitar, I will be playing sitar. And then we have Sunny Matharu Sahab, who is a tabla player. So three of us are the main act of the evening. But what is even more attractive for me and important for me is that a group of my students are presenting a composition, which we have worked together for last few months. This is the first time you will see an ensemble of Indian classical music. Usually Indian classical music is done as solo instruments or singer. Okay, everyone, tune your instruments and we'll see you in 5 minutes at the stage, okay? My students fondly called me Guruji, which is a little bit different from a teacher. Teacher is somebody who teaches. Guru is somebody who becomes a medium for the divine knowledge to pass. So these are just some experiences which are very necessary for you as a student to grow.
And it's never ending. It's not like you have a lesson and after that you're done. So we have lessons after lessons, and that keeps me really revolve around music.
But it's a very meditative form of music. So people connect to divinity. So I think once they experience that, they will be more prone to teach their children about classical music. I think there's a lack of that.
Like, it's not really about sitar anymore or music anymore. But through music we have understood and we have become so close to each other that even the music is no longer relevant in that place.
I think for me it's becoming a means of just meeting myself at a very deep internal level, like who is, outside of this body and whatever, like who am I and what does my soul really yearn for in music? And this has become a medium that is allowing me to do that. And if you're the kind of person where that is important to you, self-discovery is important to you, it's a beautiful pathway to go down and experience so much beauty musically, but also meet yourself along the way.
For people who don't understand the language, they listen to music, because music transcends languages.
This is our Vancouver.
Every 5 years, political leaders in China gather to hold their national congress. China has gone through a lot in the last 5 years. The COVID fallout, ongoing tensions with Taiwan, and the economic turmoil are sure to dominate. Well, Bernice Chen has more on what's been talked about and how it might impact us.
Sunday, October 16th marks the start of the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China in Beijing. It's a twice-a-decade meeting where the top leaders are chosen. This year's event could have big repercussions for Canada. Here's what you need to know. The Chinese Communist Party has over 96 million members. They will ratify all major decisions of the party and policy. They will also decide who will be in the Central Committee and the Politburo Standing Committee, both of which make major policy decisions. The most powerful member is the General Secretary of the party, Chair of the Military Commission and President Xi Jinping. He is 69 years old, but at this Congress he intends to extend his leadership for at least another 5 years, which is unprecedented. While extending his leadership will be smooth sailing, there are choppy waves ahead for Xi, with domestic and global challenges, with major implications for Canada-China relations. During the COVID-19 pandemic, China took the zero-COVID route. Parts or entire cities have been locked down, with armies of people in hazmat suits testing residents daily. These disruptions have hit China's economy hard. In 2022, China projected its GDP to be 5.5%. Now the World Bank has said it will be 2.8%. This week's Congress will indicate how Xi intends to get the economy back on track, as foreign companies, including those in Canada, pivot away from China's supply chain and look elsewhere to produce items from toys to steel. Another issue is the recent release of the UN report on Uyghurs that said China has committed serious human rights violations that may constitute crimes against humanity.
This is the first time that a UN High Commission for Human Rights has said that China, despite long history of human rights abuse, this is the first time it's saying that they may have committed crimes against humanity, and that's a really serious allegation.
The U.S. has already begun banning imports from Xinjiang, presumed to be made with forced labor. Uyghur activists believe Canada should follow suit.
So I think what we really need to see is something similar to what the U.S. has done, which is a presumption of the fact that forced labor is widespread in Xinjiang. Xinjiang is the source of 85% of Chinese cotton, around 20% of the world's supply. So if you find textiles that are made in China, it's very likely that they come from the Uyghur region. So I think for all of those reasons, we should have a much stronger stance when it comes to our moral and ethical culpability in supporting forced labor.
Meanwhile, in August, military tensions in the Taiwan Strait increased during U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit. It renewed China's ongoing insistence of reunification with Taiwan, which it regards as a renegade province. Xi Jinping has said he does not rule out the use of force to reunify with Taiwan, which has the self-governing island on edge. Canada has shown its support for Taiwan when a group of Canadian parliamentarians recently visited the island during its National Day celebrations.
We are worried that after Xi Jinping consolidated his power after the Party Congress, he will try to isolate Taiwan in international society in economic front, diplomatic front, and military ways to coerce Taiwan, the government, and the people.
But economically, China and Taiwan are inextricably linked. China is Taiwan's largest trading partner, while China's second largest imports at 13% come from Taiwan, from agricultural products to semiconductor chips. However, China is carefully learning from the Russian invasion of Ukraine in its strategy to take back Taiwan.
They know that they have to strike very hard, very rapidly, and then to organize a blockade, because it's easier for allies, NATO allies, to resupply Ukraine, because there is a NATO country that is the neighbor of Ukraine. In the case of Taiwan, it's an island.
Two key upcoming elections may very well determine China's course of action.
Well, the first is the elections in Taiwan in January 2024. They will do their utmost to get the Kuomintang elected and to get rid of the like of Mrs. Tsai. The other thing that they will be watching is the US presidential elections in November 2024, because if someone like Donald Trump or someone similar were to take power, I think that China may feel emboldened to attack Taiwan.
The next few years ahead will be challenging domestically for Xi as he continues China's tough zero-COVID policy and tries to jumpstart the flagging economy. While increased tensions between China and the US and China's threat of taking back Taiwan militarily is risky for countries, including Canada, we may see shifts in Canadian diplomacy to prepare for these possible scenarios. Bernice Chan, CBC News.
Coming up, the warm fall has brought us more bugs than usual. Stink bugs. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Ooh, look at that image. You know, here in BC, stink bugs are on the rise. The smelly insect is in search of warm places to shelter over winter, but it's also a destructive pest when it comes to many important crops in the province. As Rafferty Baker's finding out, hope may be coming in the form of another bug.
They sort of look majestic with their shield-shaped bodies and marmorated colors, but that doesn't mean you'll want them sneaking into your home.
Yes, we've had a few in our condo, these little black bugs that look like they have like an armor on them.
I saw it this morning around the little trees.
Yeah, we actually have had a number in our backyard, and we have a covered patio, and on the patio we've had some in our blankets that we have out there, which is a bit of a pain to get rid of. Yeah.
And have you tried squishing them?
No.
The foul odor is described as a pungent coriander-like stench, but it's due to their appetite for grapes, tree fruits, berries, vegetables, and other crops that make them a harmful threat in BC. They've already established themselves in the Lower Mainland, on Vancouver Island, and in the Kelowna area.
We do not want the brown marmorated stink bug spreading across BC. We've already got it in a couple locations. We want to keep it there.
They're great hitchhikers, so watch out if they're hopping a ride in or on your vehicle. You can kill the stink bugs. Experts recommend drowning them in soapy water. But any human intervention won't put much of a dent in stink bug populations without a major coordinated effort.
Because if I take action on my property with stink bugs and you don't take action on your property with stink bugs, we're totally ineffective. So it's a place where we all really have to work together. But at the same time, if they're in your house, you don't want to be releasing them back outside. So capture them, destroy them. Let's not add more back into the outdoors.
There is one thing giving researchers hope in the battle against the pests: a second invasive insect that likely followed the stink bugs from Asia, the samurai wasp. It lays its eggs inside the stink bug eggs, killing the embryo.
Concern is will that other insect that's attacking this one, which helps keep the population of the brown marmoset stink bug in control, will it attack anything else? And that's a concern. So it's good to keep the population numbers down on the stink bug, but we're hoping it doesn't have ripple effect on anything else.
Even if the samurai wasps are effective at keeping the stink bugs in check, it could take a few years before that new natural balance is set in BC. So in the meantime, keep a close eye out for any stink bugs trying to sneak into your home. Rafferty Baker, CBC News, Vancouver.
Rafferty, thank you so much. Do you know it was just 5 years ago that another insect was causing problems? The western tent caterpillar. It engulfed fruit trees in BC back in 2017. And that infestation reached all the way to Quebec. Let's take a look back.
Inchworms, cankerworms, whatever you call them, a lot of trees in Ontario are under attack. People, too.
There's poop everywhere when it rains. It gets slippery. Our daughter slipped in it. Our 90-pound dog has slipped in it. It's just disgusting.
Many cities spray to control caterpillars. Some that don't are now debating the idea. This spring, the unwanted creature capital of Canada appears to be Winnipeg. This is caterpillar frass, the fancy word for the droppings left by Winnipeg's triple threat of cankerworms, tent caterpillars, and elm spanworms.
This is a highly unusual year for us to have three tree pests at the same time.
They have cycles every 10 or 15 years, completely natural population explosions, but some suspect climate change may be boosting everything.
Yeah, it's a boom-bust thing, and this is a kaboom bust.
Daniel Brunton is an ecologist who recently drove from Ottawa to Victoria, stunned by the arboreal devastation he saw along the way.
Hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of continuous stripped forest.
In Toronto's High Park, many black oak trees appear to be in midwinter form. Diana Teal says older trees are the ones most at risk of not recovering.
Normally at this time of the year, these canopies of these trees would just be full, and right now they're almost completely defoliated.
For people getting fed up, it can't last much longer. In some areas already, the end is near. But some are forecasting it will also be a banner year for mosquitoes. Howard Gould, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, at the end of the program, we like to tip our hats to our talented photojournalists on staff here at CBC Vancouver. They bring us images in their artful ways to give depth and more character to the stories that we cover. Here's a sampling from what they saw this past week. And that's all for Our Vancouver for this week. I hope you can join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. Goodbye for now.